We are ready to call the board meeting to order. Is Ms. Taylor on the line?
Yes, I am.
Good morning. Please call the roll.
Thank you. Chairman Vasquez.
Present.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Present.
Member Gaines.
Present.
Member Cohen.
Present.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Present.
We have a quorum. With that, let us begin this meeting, and first order of business, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can get you to all stand, we'll begin with that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One day.
Thank you all. Let me just once again remind everybody, we're all sharing one line here, so we have patience, and we've been doing, I think, a pretty good job of that during this whole COVID period. But just another friendly reminder, just as I identify you to speak, please follow that so we can have our transcriptionist document this as accurate as possible for our minutes. And with that, if I can just have, well, you know what? Let me just ask the members real quick. Do we have any comments before we take up the first order of business? Any opening remarks from anybody? Seeing no hands, we will have Ms. Taylor, if you would please announce the first order of business.
Certainly. Our first order of business is an announcement regarding the public teleconference participation. Good morning, and thank you for joining today's Board of Equalization meeting via teleconference. Throughout the duration of today's meeting, you will primarily be in a listen-only mode. As you may know from our public agenda notice and our website, we have requested that individuals who wish to make a public comment fill out the public comment submission form found on our additional information webpage in advance of today's meeting, or alternatively, participate in today's meeting by providing your public comment live. After the presentation of an item has concluded, we will begin by identifying any public comment requests that have been received by our board proceeding staff with the AT&T operator, providing directions for you to identify yourself. After all known public commenters have been called, the operator will also provide public comment instructions to individuals participating via teleconference. Accordingly, if you intend to make a public comment today, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the conference line, as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay. When giving a public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We ask that everyone who is not intending to make a public comment, please mute their line or minimize background noise. If there are technical difficulties when we are in the public comment portion of our meeting, we will do our best to read submitted comments into the record at the appropriate times. Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for that. If you would please call our first item.
Our first order of business will be item C1, property taxes, state assessees presentations on the valuation of state assessed properties. This matter will be presented by Mr. Young.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Taylor. Good morning, Chair Vasquez and honorable members of the board. My name is David Young, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. Today, I bring before you the second of 2 opportunities for state assessees under Property Tax Rule 903 to make presentations to the board on factors affecting their assessed value for this season. The first of these opportunities was held in February. No state assessees opted to make such a presentation. In the recent past, we've had very few speakers choose to make a presentation. I believe that this speaks to our staff's ability and commitment to work with state assessees throughout the year in addressing many of the issues. Once again, we have not had any state assessees contact our office to let us know that they intended on making a presentation, but that does not affect their ability to do so now. So as of right now, I am not aware of any folks that are planning to make a presentation. Once again, this item is informational only and does not require board action. Ms. Taylor, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Are there any additional speakers in the audience on this item? Do we know?
Chairman Vasquez, there are no scheduled speakers.
And no written comments, I believe?
Correct, no written comments either.
Can we check with AT&T and see if there's anybody in the queue or on the line that wishes to speak on this item?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, we will now take public comment on state assessees' presentations on the valuation of state assessed properties. Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak. For the record, we request that the callers provide their name. Is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to make a comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. Once again, press 1, 0. And allowing a few moments here, we do not have anyone queuing up for a comment.
Thank you. With that, let me turn it over to the board. If there's any questions or comments from the board, any of the board members wish to speak on this item or make a comment? Seeing no hands. And this is informational, so I believe we're good. We will go on. We will move forward. Ms. Taylor, could you call our next item?
Yes, our next item is F1A, Other Tax Program Non-Appearance Matters, Property Tax Matters, Audit, Google North America Incorporated, Doing Business as Project Fee by Google, 2001 2801 CF. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. Therefore, the Deputy Controller may not participate in this matter under Government Code Section 7.9. This matter will be presented by Mr. Young.
Yes, hello again, David Young again. Today, I am presenting one audit for the board's consideration and adoption this month. The audit is for Project Fee by Google, which is an alternative wireless carrier. This company was selected for audit due to some inconsistent reporting. The audit focused on reconciling the reported historical costs to Project Fee's books and fixed asset records. The conclusion, the audit resulted in the underreporting of assets and some overreporting. The actual offset is a net underreporting of approximately $3 million. We ask for your consideration and adoption of the board's staff's findings. I am available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Members, do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Young?
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Yes, go ahead, Vice Chair.
Mr. Young, is this total of $3 million escaped. Is this a significant amount of their total obligation, or is it just very small because they have a gigantic obligation? I'm trying to place it in perspective.
Yes, sir. The relative scale is that it's I don't believe it to be truly significant. It is $3 million, but in the scope of their assessment, I don't believe it's significant. Staff has had an opportunity to actually share our audit findings with the assessee, and assessee was given an opportunity to submit additional information, and indeed they did, and we actually revised the audit since. What is before you is considered the revised audit.
Okay, and it looks to me like there was no underassessment this last year, that our underassessment is 2 years prior. Is that right?
That is correct. The audit actually covered 3 years, 2019, 2018, and 2017.
We've been
1 year was a...
We've been
sorry, I did not hear your question.
We've been auditing Google now for decades, have we?
They all assessees are there is a possibility that they are audited at any time, and usually we do pick some at random, and we do follow up on some that have either inconsistent or not complete reporting. So we do all assessees are, I guess, in the universe, in the pot of those that can be picked.
Well, I guess my concern was, do we have any problem with Google going back for decades, or is this just sort of a random, occasional item?
This one was caused by some inconsistent reporting. So this one was, we wanted to follow up that the property statements that they filed was consistent and truly represented what were their taxable assets.
Okay, I appreciate the further information. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, I see a hand from Member Gaines.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Chair Vasquez. I guess I wanted to just comment that it looks like the BOE did exactly what they should have done, and they found these discrepancies, and there's some additional tax due, and there's no objection by Project 5 by Google. That's my understanding, at least, and maybe David, you could expand on that.
That is correct. When we finish our work, we do send our findings to the assessees, and they are afforded an opportunity to review it and to submit any other documentation, evidence, or anything else they may believe would be material to our findings. And my understanding is Project V actually did that, and we took that into consideration and have since revised it and resent it to them, and without additional comment from them.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Seeing no other comments or questions from the members that are able to participate, let me just turn to Ms. Taylor. Do we have anybody, or we have any written comments on this? Or do we have anybody in the queue?
We do not have any written comments, and I'll find out from AT&T if there's someone who'd like to speak. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who'd like to make a public comment on this item? Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and for the record, we request the callers provide their name.
Okay. Once again, if you'd like to make comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. And we have no one queuing up at this time.
Thank you. this item is now before us. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Is there anybody, any one of the members? I'm sorry.
Hi, good morning. It's Malia. So moved. I'll make that motion for you.
Thank you. It's been moved
You're
by
welcome.
Member Cohen. And I will go ahead and second it. It looks like everybody's still waking up this morning. Anyway, with that, seeing no other hands or comments, if I can get Ms. Taylor to please call the roll on the motion.
Thank you. Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers not participating.
So that's unanimous of those that are able to participate. And with that,
I'm
it's
sorry,
been approved.
Chairman Vasquez, this is
Oh.
Council Henry Nanko.
Yes,
Chairman Vasquez, I'm sorry, I'm trying to take notes, but I missed, was there a second on that motion?
yes, it was moved by Member Cohen and I second it.
Okay, thank you very much. Just double checking.
Thank you for checking. With that, that's been approved, like I said, by all those that were able to participate. Now we will, if I can have Ms. Taylor, please call the next item.
The next item is G1, Chief Counsel Matters, Rulemaking, Proposed Property Tax Rule 462.520. Staff requests authorization to publish Property Tax Rule 462.520, Exclusion from Change in Ownership, Intergenerational Transfers, to implement and make specific provisions of Section 2.1 of Article 13A of the California Constitution. This item will be presented by Mr. Moon.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Richard Moon with the Legal Department. As you know, since Prop 19's passage by voters on November 3rd of last year, staff has been working on providing guidance to all interested parties in various forms. As well, the CAA, along with the board, has been working with the legislature to pass clarifying legislation which would grant the board explicit emergency rulemaking authority to implement Prop 19. However, as you know, that legislation has not been enacted. Therefore, at the February 24th meeting, the board authorized staff to initiate the regular rulemaking process for Proposition 19. And as reported by staff at the February meeting, the Prop 19 rules that we're working on have been broken into two parts. The first, covering rules for the intergenerational transfer exclusion, are before you today. Staff has drafted them, put them out for comment by interested parties, received those comments, and reviewed those comments and made some edits. Staff would like to thank all parties that submitted comments, particularly the Chairman's Office and the assessors. Although not all comments received were incorporated into the draft before you today, many of them will be incorporated in subsequent guidance, specifically a second letter to assessors on intergenerational transfer exclusions. Further, some may be considered for possible future amendments to the rule. The rule before you today is consistent with the structure of existing property tax rules and reflects what staff believes to be a version of the rule that meets the direction given to the staff by the board, that it addresses fundamental, necessary guidance for implementation and administration, and that it be done as expeditiously as possible. Therefore, staff requests that the board approve the publication of the Notice of Proposed Action for Rulemaking for Rule 462.520. Should the board approve staff's request today, we would plan to hold the public hearing required by the Administrative Procedures Act at the July board hearing, where the board would have the opportunity to hear public comment and vote to adopt or not adopt the rule or to make any changes the board felt necessary. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. I just had one quick comment and question, and it refers to more, I guess, the terminology here in Section B, valuation, and Section C, new taxable value. This is new and complex since Prop 19, and I was just wondering if it was possible to maybe add some sample calculations here to illustrate the words in B and in C without changing any of it would be helpful to meet the plain language requirement, similar to models or calculations in other rules. And I was wondering if that's a possibility and if you agree with that.
Mr. Chair, I guess I would first point out that sample calculations and examples are already in the rule, and the rule was structured to be consistent with other property tax rules, including other change in ownership rules. And while I agree that showing examples sort of in a calculation or formula or a form of a formula, it may be helpful. But it may also throw off our planned timeline. And as we're working to try and get the rule adopted as quickly as possible, I think any changes at this point that we may want could be done in another fashion. And if you would like examples of that nature to be shown, my suggestion would be is that we include it in the upcoming planned letter to assessors. And this would be consistent with how we've done many rules and examples in the past. And just to give you a couple examples, for low-income housing, our property tax rule 140 explains how to value certain types of low-income housing. And then we have an LTA that gives specific formulaic type examples that you know, I guess some would say are easier to follow. And we've also done this with the joint tenancy rule as well. So if you look at the rule, then what it would have is a narrative explanation of what the rules are, similar to the rule here that's presented before you. And then there's an LTA that explains what those changes meant with further examples. And my suggestion is that we would do that for this rule as well, that based on the timeline, that the board approve this rule, and then we add to the guidance through a letter to assessors where we would do additional examples and show them more in a sort of a calculation form or a formula form that may be helpful to some interested parties.
I appreciate that. Now, when you're talking about, so would that be included in the LTA, or would it be something separate?
We would include that in an LTA.
Okay. I'm good with that. Is there any other comments or questions from any of the other members? I see a hand from Member Gaines.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Chair Vasquez. I just wanted to clarify, because what we're doing is we're really interpreting the initiative while we wait for the legislature to take action on some areas where there was a lack of clarity. And so, and when that law is passed, it's my understanding that it would take, you know, based on what Mr. Nanjo had shared with me, it could take up to a year to codify what's in the legislation. And so I think we could have, I guess, an area of concern I have, but I don't know how you get away from it, is that we could have interpretation coming from the BOE that may not be viewed in the same nature by SB 539, but the bill that's moving through. And so you might have judgments made in this interim period that could be corrected at some point in the future. Is that, or could change?
Yeah, that is an absolute concern, and that is one we took into consideration as we were drafting this rule. So the way that the rule is drafted is consistent with what we know to be in SB 539. And now, if for some reason, for example, if something is added to SB 539 that's inconsistent with our rules, then of course we would need to, in the future, amend our rule to be consistent with the legislation.
Great. All right. And that allows us to act and give at least some degree of clarity to our county assessors. And so I applaud the work of the BOE and of you in particular, Mr. Moon, and also Mr. Nanjo and the legal team. And at the appropriate time, I'd be willing to make a motion.
Thank you. Let's see if there's any other comments from members before. Oh, I see a hand from Ms. Stowers. Go ahead, Ms. Stowers.
Thank you, Chair Gaines. I too just wanted to acknowledge the hard work that staff, stakeholders, and all the members we've done to get this far in implementing Prop 19. I believe we have a solid rule right here as it relates to generation transfers. And should there be some changes to the language in SB 539, of course, we will adjust to follow what's in that statute. But as we stand right now, my read of the proposed rule is in line with Prop 19, and it's in the language of 539 as well. So again, just good job to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for this heavy, heavy lift.
Thank you. Any other members? Seeing and hearing none. Let me just ask Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this, Ms. Taylor?
We do not.
Can we check with AT&T and see if anybody's on the line?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this item? Each caller will have up to 3 minutes to speak. For the record, we request the callers provide their name.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you do wish to make a comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. And we have no one queuing up for questions or comments at this time.
Thank you. The item is now before us. I believe Member Gaines was prepared to make a motion. Is that correct, Member Gaines?
Yes, I am, Chair Vasquez, and I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed property tax rule 462.520.
Vice Chair Schaefer, I would second. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Chairman Vasquez. This is Henry Nanjo, Chief Counsel. Just for purposes of clarity, the request from staff is to for the board to vote to request staff to go ahead and publish these rules.
Okay, could I amend the motion?
Yes.
Just add that this would provide this would grant authority to staff to publish the rules.
Thank you.
Chair Vasquez, I withdraw my proposed second to Ms. Starr. She's previously seconded.
That's okay,
right,
sir. No, that's okay, sir. You can stand on the second.
All right, so we have Member Gaines moved the motion with his amendment, and then it's been seconded by the Vice Chair Schaefer. And let me see if there's any comments or hands or questions on the motion. Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Taylor, if you could please call the roll on this.
Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous, and that motion moves forward. If I can have Ms. Taylor please call our next item.
The next item is J1, Administrative Consent Agenda, approval of the board meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2021. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Do we have any comments or questions about the minutes before we move to adopt them? Seeing no hands or comments, members, I would just entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of our board hearing. And those are of March 23rd, 2021.
So moved, Member Gaines.
It's been moved by Member Gaines.
Second.
I would go, and it's second by our Vice Chair, Schaefer. Seeing no comments or hands, Ms. Taylor, if you please call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
Thank you, members. That's unanimous of all those present. With that, if I can have Ms. Taylor, please call our next item.
The next item is K1A, Executive Director's Report, Organizational Update. Report on the status of pending and upcoming organizational issues. This item will be presented by Ms. Fleming.
And Ms. Fleming, before you start, it's my understanding we're going to hear items K1A through K1C before we request any public comments at the end of, I guess at the conclusion of all these sub-items. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. I'm Brenda Fleming, Executive Director. Today's report, members, will provide updates on our priorities and significant accomplishments since last month's meeting. The executive team will report on our operational activities and projects in their respective areas of responsibility. Since our last meeting, members, one of our top priorities continues to be the implementation of Proposition 19. Additionally, however, our priorities also include our other tax administration functions, specifically and for example, our state-assessed valuations, our county survey programs, our training and certification programs, guidance, legal opinions, litigation matters, etc. And of course, the implementation of our strategic goals and objectives to rebuild and modernize our programs. And we thank you for all of your participation and leadership in these areas. If I may, members, I'll move on to some bit of comment on our organizational update in general. We have now, believe it or not, passed the one-year milestone of the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, and we continue to adhere to state mandates for social distancing, mask guidance, and statewide reporting protocols. I am grateful, members, to report that our workforce has remained healthy with very few positive cases and minimal staff impacted. Members, there are many other organizational activities, but I won't steal the staff's thunder as they will provide updates on the great work being accomplished. However, as we approach the mid-calendar year, I'm reviewing our overall organizational status, our lessons learned, and emerging trends to begin my planning for the next phase of our continual improvement activities. In partnership with you, I will use this information to help plan our 2022 tax administration and leadership efforts. For example, take high-level items like welfare exemptions, affordable housing, wildfire-related issues, etc. So we have so much more to do. And I'm really looking forward to working with you on those. Members, if you would allow me to move to item K1B, which is the extension of time to complete the local assessment role. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 616 requires county assessors to annually complete their local assessment roles by July 1. Section 155 provides that the board or its executive director may extend by 30 days the deadline for any official act by the assessor.
In the case of public calamity, the deadline may be extended by 40 days. Section 155 also requires that the executive director inform the board of any such extension at its next regular meeting. This report is to inform you that the El Dorado and Trinity County assessors have requested and been granted a 30-day extension for completing their 2021 local assessment roll. Lastly, members, thank you to the team and our staff for their good work and their dedication to BOE success during this health pandemic. Members, if there are no questions, I will now hand it over, as the chair indicated before, to the executive management team, beginning with Ms. Renati, to provide updates on the projects and operational priorities in their respective areas. And then we can rejoin you at the end of this full presentation. Ms. Renati.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. My name is Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Today, I will report on the agency's operational priorities and projects since last month. As you are well aware, since the passage of Prop 19, a great deal of our agency's activities have revolved around the actions needed to successfully implement Prop 19 and to ensure the public and taxpayers are informed. At the same time, we continue to focus on our operational priorities to ensure we make advancements in our strategic goals to rebuild, revitalize, and modernize. The first item of my report is our workforce capacity. For the month ending March 2021, 96% of the agency's vacant positions are in various stages of the active recruitment process. During March 2021, 3 positions were filled, which brings the total filled positions since the beginning of the fiscal year in July 2021 to 27 filled positions. It should be noted that over 55% of the 27 filled positions included persons new to the BOE. Therefore, along with our efforts to recruit and fill our vacant positions, we are also expending time with onboarding activities to ensure our new staff are well trained and have the tools they need to succeed. Our continued focus on hiring has shown much progress, and we will continue to work toward optimizing our workforce capacity. Members, the next item is the BOE's annual report. The annual report for fiscal year 2019-2020 has been published and is available on our BOE website. Some highlights from the annual report include the following. In fiscal year 2019-2020, the net statewide assessed value of properties by the 58 county assessors was $6.8 trillion, resulting in $74.4 billion of property tax levies. Those property tax levies contributed $40.5 billion to schools and $34.9 billion to local governments. In addition, in 2020, the Board of Equalization set the values of state assessed properties, primarily privately owned public utilities and railroads, at $119.7 billion. State assessed properties produced $1.88 billion in local property tax revenues for the state's 58 counties. Lastly, the BOE is also responsible for the administration of the Alcoholic Beverage Tax Program, which produced $369 million, and the Tax on Insurance Program, which contributed $2.6 billion to the state. The BOE is proud to continue to do our part to provide essential revenues for the state and local governments. Members, this concludes my report regarding the agency's day-to-day operational priorities. I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Renati. Were we going to continue, Ms. Fleming, before we ask the questions, or do you want us to ask questions of her before we continue?
I think for clarity, members, if you would like to ask questions for each manager as they're presenting, then they can directly answer the questions at that time.
Okay. I'll open it up to the members. I'm sorry? I see a hand from Member Gaines. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Vasquez. And I just want to thank Executive Director Fleming and also, is it Assistant Director Lisa Renati? I want to get the title right. I'm sorry if I've botched that, but I just want to thank you both for your efforts. I just think we're making a lot of progress at the BOE, and I'm real happy with what we've done with the website. And I know David Lee and the whole team has been working on that. And I want to also thank Lisa. I know that she's doing a lot in terms of hiring our staff, and we're making real progress. We've made a lot of progress in this current budget year, and that's difficult because we promote from within, which we should be doing, and that's a good thing, but that creates another vacancy, and then you have to fill that vacancy. So simultaneously, we're promoting while we're also hiring, and we've been hiring folks from the outside, and I think that's also good to have that mixture of people with experience and then also people coming from the outside and contributing. So I just am encouraged when I look back when we were first elected, and all of us being new members, with the exception of Member Stowers, who we've relied on her experience, and thank you for that. But just in terms of getting up to speed, learning what our duties are, while we've also transitioned into really a new agency that is property focused. And having spoken to Mr. Nanjo and seeing that our legal team is up to speed, and we've filled almost all of those positions, I'm just encouraged. And so I want to thank the leadership at the BOE for what's happening, and I'm really encouraged about the future with the BOE. So thanks for that opportunity.
Thank you. Other members? Seeing no hands or comments right now, let me ask Ms. Renati. I had a question, but I think it may come up or be answered by our next presenter, which is, I believe, Mr. Young, and is it Ms. Lumsden, who's going to talk about the LTAs and FAQs for Prop 19. Is that correct?
Chairman, this is Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. You're correct. Those comments will be included in the reports by the managers of the various areas, including property tax and communications.
Okay, I'll wait, but I see, is that, Mr. Gaines, is your hand back up? It looks like your hand's back up.
Yeah, I spoke in error, and wanted to recognize Peter Kim and all of his efforts that he's done with our website and his team. So I apologize.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Renati, would you continue? I guess you're going to introduce the next two speakers.
Thank you, Chairman. This is Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Members, the next item is an overview of the BOE's implementation and action plan for Prop 19. Our Prop 19 implementation project is organized to optimize success, allows for flexibility to organize workloads and resources, and minimizes risks. A high-level implementation plan is attached to today's agenda. This plan highlights 7 of the work categories needed to implement Prop 19, including guidance, forms, technology, rulemaking, communications, taxpayer rights advocate activities, and education and outreach. Our implementation project for Prop 19 is currently expected to take approximately 3 to 5 years. At this point in our project, we will be reporting on the major phases and work plans through 2022. I am happy to report today that the status of our Prop 19 implementation project is green, which indicates we have no issues or concerns to report. And members, unless you have any questions, I would like to turn to each team member so they can provide you with specific information on the implementation actions for their areas. The first report will be provided by Mr. David Young, Deputy Director of Property Tax Department, and Ms. Patty Lumsden, Chief of County Assessed Properties Division, who will provide a report on the department's implementation actions, including updates on guidance. Mr. Young?
Yes, thank you again, Ms. Lunati. Once again, David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department here, along with Ms. Lumsden. I will give you a brief update on the property taxes efforts so far. They so far has involved 4 areas, the first of which are actually public inquiries. Staff has had a significant workload answering questions via telephone through our website and written communication from taxpayers, assessors, and other stakeholders on Prop 19. It has actually decreased a little from the last 2 months when the intergenerational transfer exclusion first went into effect, but it's still a significant workload for staff on top of all the other inquiries that we get as a matter of routine and standard practice. The second area where we're concentrating a lot of our efforts is in the 2 property tax rules that the board's legal department has already made mention. Those are property tax rule 462.520 and 462.540. The first one deals with the intergenerational transfer, which you board members have already basically authorized staff to move forward with the publication of that rule. And the other one has to do with the base year transfers. Staff was very instrumental in dealing with soliciting and reviewing comments from various stakeholders on the proposed language, put it in a matrix, and analyzed and addressed such issues. The third area I wanted to highlight was our LTAs, our guidance. So staff right now is working on an LTA that provides guidance on the base year transfers. It will be modeled to the prior LTA that we issued on intergenerational transfer exclusion. It will take a Q&A form, questions and answers. We will try to develop a guidance in as plain a language as we possibly can, and to give stakeholders, taxpayers, and assessors some guidance on the implementation of the base year transfers. The first draft has already been completed and is now under internal review. So we look forward to putting that out very soon. And the fourth area I wanted to give you an update on is the technology. A portion of Prop 19 requires the board to track certain base year transfers. There's a limit to 3 times per person for that type of transfer. Property tax staff has been working with our partners at CBTFA in developing such a tracking system. The efforts are going well. We're making good progress on that and hope to have that up and going pretty soon. That should conclude my updates on the property tax department's efforts in implementing Prop 19. I'm available, as is Ms. Lumsden, for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you both, Ms. Young and Mr. Young and Ms. Lumsden. I had a quick question, and I'm not sure who it's directed to, but either one. And it's, as I noticed that none of the Prop 19 LTAs or FAQs issued so far contain any information about what happens when an ADU is part of a principal resident. Are you developing some information on the impacts of ADUs, and what would you possibly be ready to present for some basic information to us? And once, as we're running through all these acronyms, I just wanted to put out there, ADUs, is an auxiliary dwelling unit, just for the public as they're listening.
Yes, you are you are correct. It is of concern, and we've had inquiries about the effect of such accessory dwelling units on Prop 19. We are researching it. We are looking. We are working with reviewing statutes and working with our legal department on developing guidance. So it will be included to the in future guidance. We would be more than happy to update you as developments go, and we're able to come to some sound conclusions and develop some sound policies as to how they should be treated.
I appreciate it. I think it'd just be good information to get out to the public, because I know we're getting, at least I've been getting a lot of questions about it, and I'm assuming other members have as well. And yeah, as soon as possible, that'd be great. Thank you.
Of course.
I see a hand up for Member Gaines. Or is that an old hand, Member Gaines?
That's an old hand. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. I see a hand for Ms. Stowers. I believe that's a new one.
Yes, excuse me, it's a new one, but I think I'm gonna ask this. I understand the ADU and the issues with valuation, but correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not just a problem when it comes to Prop 19, but it's more general on how do you value these units? So I don't know if is that correct, Mr. Moon?
Yes, actually ADUs represent a little bit of a challenge. It is a relatively new provision both in statute and what they're actually building on the ground. So there are issues of valuation, and there is a particular intersection with Prop 19 as to how to treat ADUs, whether having an ADU qualifies for parts of your original base year value that you can transfer, or on the other end, if you buy a unit with an ADU, what are you eligible to transfer to that new replacement property? So there are a couple of issues to be tackled, and it's not just, you are correct, not just in Prop 19, but also in valuation too. So it is a wide area that will need some real review and research.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Of course.
Any other comments or questions from any of the other members? Seeing and hearing none, let me just check. Well, Ms. Taylor, we don't have any written comments specifically on this item, do we?
Chairman, we do not.
Okay. Yeah, what about, do you know if we have any assessors who wish to speak regarding this Prop 19 guidance?
I'm not aware of any that are planning to speak.
Okay. And members, if there's no other comments or questions on this item, let me turn it back to Ms. Renati, and she could begin with the third sub-item.
Thank you, Chairman Vasquez. The next report will be provided by Chief Counsel Henry Nanjo and Tax Counsel Richard Moon, who will provide a report on the legal department's implementation actions. Mr. Nanjo.
Thank you, Ms. Renati, Chairman Vasquez, Vice Chairman Schaefer, and honorable members of the board. Henry Nanjo, Chief Counsel. Our legal department has been working hand in hand with the property tax department in preparing all the guidance, the LTAs, reviewing the LTAs, and other FAQs and other guidance we've been putting out for obviously legal sufficiency and clarity. In addition, the primary focus of my staff has been in working on the two property tax rule updates, one of which, thank you very much to the board members for approving publication, authorization to publish property tax rule 462.520, the exclusion for change in ownership for intergenerational transfers. Again, the board has directed the legal department to work as expeditiously as possible to get rules out, make sure our rules, property tax rules, are consistent with Proposition 19 as we understand it, and also consistent with guidance and other rules or guidance that this board has authorized and has previously put out. As Mr. Moon indicated, with the board's approval to publish the property tax rule, we are on track to have the public hearing on those rules at the July meeting. If everything goes well next month, we hope to bring you the proposed property tax rule 462.540 regarding base year value transfers, and that should be going to public hearing again if everything holds to schedule at the August meeting. We are working as quickly as possible to get these rules up. Unfortunately, as Mr. Moon described for the board, because we have not yet received emergency rulemaking authority as stated in Senate Bill 539, we are proceeding with the regular rulemaking process. Under our current projections, if everything goes as planned, Rule 462.520, the rules that you authorized publication on today, will probably be effective sometime in the first quarter of 2021. And again, if everything holds to schedule, 462.540 on base year value transfers will be following a month later. Obviously, we're trying to keep on track as soon as possible, and that primarily has been the legal department's focus on implementation. As consistent with what property tax department has found, the inquiries and questions that legal department has received on Proposition 19 has lessened somewhat, but we are still trying to provide guidance, and we do get inquiries from now time and again. So that is another function that we are facilitating in the implementation of Proposition 19. I invite Richard Moon to add anything that I may have forgotten, but otherwise that's the report, and I'm available for any questions, or as is Mr. Moon. Thank you.
You mentioned Mr. Moon. Does he have anything else to add before I open it up to the members?
This is Richard Moon with the legal department. I don't have anything separately to add, but I'm happy to help answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions of Mr. Nanjo or Mr. Moon? I just had a quick question, and it's a question on the rule, the 462.540, the base year value transfer exclusion. It's my understanding that to qualify, a property must be the person's original primary residence, and it must undergo a 100% change in ownership and reappraisal upon sale or transfer. But I'm not clear, based on the examples, about what happens if a person turned the detached garage into an ADU, basically an accelerated dwelling unit, and sold it to a friend. Would that disqualify it?
Mr. Vasquez, as Mr. Young had described in his portion of the agenda, there's a lot of unanswered questions about ADUs that we are, together with the Property Taxes Department, looking into. However, in the situation that you described, the base year value transfer requirement is that the original primary residence is sold 100%. And so if an ADU were sold separately and was no longer part of the primary residence, the owner of the remaining part of the primary residence would still be eligible for the base year value transfer on that portion. So in other words, the base year value of the primary residence, which would no longer include the ADU, could still be transferred.
So basically they would parcel that out.
Yeah, if it was sold, it would already be parceled out, and that would not be included in the calculation of the value.
So let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. So if it's sold as one parcel, though, isn't it? Because you're not able to split it, are you? An ADU,
well, I think it may depend. My understanding of the ADU rules is that the localities can determine, with some exceptions, the localities can determine whether the ADU can be sold separately or not.
Oh, okay, so it's basically leveled up to each assessor on that role then.
Yes, so if the ADU if the locality allowed it to be parceled separately and sold separately, then I think it would be fairly clear that the owner of the remaining portion, not including the ADU, would be able to sell that portion and transfer the base year value of that portion of the primary residence. If there were some other type of ownership involved, I think that's something we would have to take a look at a little bit more closely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the members or comments? Seeing and hearing none.
Vasquez?
Oh, yes.
Chairman Vasquez, this is Ms.
Yes.
Taylor. I just wanted to bring to your attention that the webcast audio is not working at this moment, and we are attempting to fix that. So our public members cannot hear our conversation.
Oh, no. Should we pause or continue?
Let's see if Ms. Fleming would like to weigh in.
Chair Vasquez, Vice Chair
Yes.
Schaefer, do we know that there's any public wanting to speak, or are we just concerned that there may be?
I'm just,
Excuse me, this is Brenda Fleming, Executive Director, Chairman. If I can ask for a 5-minute break, give us an opportunity to confirm the status of the audio stream to the public, which we're required to have. If you would allow me 5 minutes to confirm with staff, see if we can get it restored timely. Would you mind taking a 5-minute break, sir?
No, let's do that because I think we might be in violation otherwise.
Exactly, sir. So members, please, 5-minute recess, and we will have you turn off your mics, and you can leave your cameras on if you're comfortable, but feel free also to turn them off if needed. 5-minute break, staff. Let's work on the technology issue. Thank you.
It's 11:10, 11:15. We'll reconvene. Thank you.